Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. So the title of my speech tonight, if some of you can't decipher what those words mean, is porcine, refers to pig or swine, familiar with that. Hominine, as you may pick up a little bit more readily, is about humans. And the first one I had to look up, because that's part of the researching the topic portion, is the Anatine, which has to do with ducks. So what do those three things have to do with anything at all? What do ducks, pigs, and humans have to do with one another? Well, what is something kind of scary going around nowadays? I'll give you a hint. It was a national emergency declared last week. Swine flu, exactly. So, how does this work? And that's the thing you have to think about when you have a giant epidemic possibility in a country. What is entailed? What is involved? Who does what? How does this thing work? Well, I can answer the last one for you. How does this thing work? So, for the researching of my topic, I chose to find out exactly how this flu virus really works. And I'll talk while I set this up. But I printed out some diagrams to show how this thing actually works. If you can think about little basketballs, think about little basketballs that attach themselves to different cells in your body, okay? So the virus is simply a basketball filled with its code. Now this basketball, really think about it when you really have to go to the bathroom and you finally find a toilet. That's the best analogy. It's a little graphic, but it gets the point across, such that once you find the connection, you dump your material into the cell, okay? So that's what it does. These basketballs line up with the outside of the cell, and they dump their genetic mutation material inside the center of the cell. Now, the viruses themselves can't create their own new offspring. They have to hijack the cell factory's machinery to do so. So that's why it's a virus. It can't live on its own. It has to parasite off of another living host. So how does this work? Well, let me get that one. No, that one. Laptop. There we go. Okay. So this is how. Sorry for the delay. This is how it looks. It's actually like like I was saying, a basketball, but it's got different little receptors on the outside of it, which lock into the cell. Now, cells normally transmit data, nutrients, and things like that across one another, and this thing kind of fills in the gaps. Okay, now, like I was saying, it injects its own genetic code, but the thing about here is this is how evolution really works. You have random mutation, or spontaneous mutation of genetic material, then you have natural selection, which allows some of the offspring to survive and some of them don't. This particular genetic copying makes an error 1 in every 10,000 times. Now that's extremely frequent. And in your body, it's 1 out of every 30 million or so. So it's a lot of difference of how the different virus offsprings are formed. Well, so here's how it works, is it injects its own material and it makes, here's another electron microscope picture of it, and you can see here, there's individual virus cells with the actual basketball attachments on the outside. And then here's the last one. Okay, so this is the actual cell that just got invaded, okay? Now these are all the little buds. It's like a little virus farm now that has been taken over, which you can now use for its own intermediate purposes and spread around. Well, influenza, swine flu in this particular example, uses this type of budding process in your lungs. You breathe in droplets of water, which contain swine flu viruses, and then what you do is it invades all the different cells and things in the top of your lungs. Now what does that do with humans? It starts to inflame the region, and then you cough. By natural inflammation of the lungs, you cough, and then you just help spread this virus to all your friends, all the tables, handles, subway, doors, all kinds of sorts. So it gets a free ride off of your coughing reflex. So, like I was saying, there's a natural genetic mutation between host to host, with such human to human. Now, why does this matter with swine flu? What's the connection between ducks, pigs, humans? Well, ducks and pigs also can have their own variants of flu. And duck flu, I don't know if you guys remember, but in China, in particular, other Asian countries had a duck flu scare, avian flu scare about 4 years ago. So, there's 8, well, let me go back, 1, 2. In the middle here, all this genetic material, there's 8 of them total, 8 segments. And when one of these that's particular to a duck or something goes into a pig is like a cauldron of different flu types. They can all mix and match and have a grand old time and exchange DNA. So what that means is that no, that's too far, that one. So when you have a duck, and it's got its orange and purple in this demonstration, you have orange and blue here, they can mix in the pig and create a purple and orange in some weird strains. So that allows it to come back to humans, and it's much more powerful, much more devastating, has a greater impact across the board. So why is this important? Why is this a national emergency? Because in 1918, depending on who you ask, there's Spanish flu, which was the exact same strain, H1N1, as what we have here. So it killed 20 million people at a minimum and 100 million people at a maximum, depending on the estimates. So if you're running a country of hundreds of millions of people and you have the same variant that's back with a vengeance, a lot of people play it safe and declare it a national emergency because you don't know how well it's going to impact the population. So my advice here is to use good habits. If you want more information, here's the book I got a lot of those things from. Read this, it's how pathogenic viruses work. And when you're sick with the flu, you have to sit at home anyway, watch TV, might as well read. Figure out what is going on while you're feeling miserable. So you can accurately prepare yourself for better habits and ultimately better health. Mrs. Toastmaster, Adam Toastmaster.